Hey everybody, this is John for MTG Nexus. Finally with an updated version of Arclight Phoenix. Finally saw a list that looked interesting enough that I wanted to try. It was different enough from the pre-Thornhill Drain variants that maybe the new tools will help out the deck a little bit. This particular list is from the Arclight Phoenix Discord, a user Jazonkidd. That way he gets proper credit for his deck list. Interesting things about this list is the copy of Royal Silence in the main list and Merchant in the Vale, both cards that have seen some play in standard variants of the deck, as well as some thoughts that this might help replace the loss of Faithless Looting to a certain degree. Also cards like Izzet Charm here to give additional discard outlets. The main other card that is coming from Thornhill Drain is Brazen Borrower, which is both kind of a Vapor Snag or boomerang effect on your opponent's permanents only, that also doubles as a 3/1 flying creature, help pressure your opponent. So it's kind of like a split card between like Vendilion Click and but you can use both halves, so you can use this half to trigger your thing in the ice, and then cast the Brazen Borrower. I mean, I suppose there's situations where if like you hit 5 mana, you can use your ability to bounce this, and then at the end of turn cast it. So decent synergy with Thing in the Ice, along with things like Snapcaster Mage. You also have the 4 copies of Arclight Phoenix, which obviously has been the standard fare throughout. Beyond that, not a whole lot unique about this list from things that people have been trying to revive the archetype. Pyromancer's Ascension as opposed to Aria Flame in the main. A little bit leaner, a little bit earlier to the ground. One of the problems with trying to play the clunkier version of the deck is you get into the grind games, and Phoenix, especially without the ability to flash for Faithless Looting, isn't quite as good at the grind game. Maybe Royal Silence in the main deck will help that out. You also potentially have the chance to cast Merchant in the Vale, although a 2/3 that loots really doesn't seem to do a whole lot in a format like Modern, but it is an option of something in the mid to late game you can have once you've used the haggle portion of things. Fidelity of Promise one is kind of notably absent. Part of the problem with Fidelity of Promise is when you're playing with cards like Merchant in the Vale, Brazen Borrower, there's not a whole lot left to flash back. And then beyond that, main deck's just kind of the same. A little late on lands, 17 as opposed to 18 from some of the previous lists we'd been running. Free spell we're choosing to run, Force of Negation, makes more sense. Neither Surgical nor Gutshot are particularly well placed in the current format, at least not in the main deck. As far as the sideboard, a lot of the same stuff we've been seeing even before the bannings. Dragon's Claws for the Surgeon, Mono Red, Prowess, and Burn. Saheeli for the kind of grindier games. This card did not impress me in Mono Red Prowess, however it is pretty good in a cantrip heavy deck like Izzet, Shatterstorm, and Abrades for any type of artifact decks, especially the Emery decks that are starting to pop up. Surgical Extraction also pretty decent in that style of matchup. Anger of the Gods, when you're playing against the small creature decks, which are a little bit less frequent than they used to be, especially with the mid-range battles going on in Modern right now. Alpine Moon, pretty decent in some spots, especially against Tron and Valakut. And then Aria Flame when you need an additional mid-range threat against some of these slower mid-range and somewhat slower combat decks. The one notable thing missing in this list is there's no copies of Blood Moon. That's certainly a card that you consider potentially over Alpine Moon. If you're specifically trying to beat Tron, Alpine Moon's a little bit better. Blood Moon's generally better, a little bit better against the field. Gives you more free wins and stuff, but it is a little bit slower, specifically in the matchups that you're trying to land hate your opponent. So reasonable to believe playing Alpine Moon. These could very easily be Blood Moons. That said, if you like what you're seeing on the channel, please consider subscribing, give us a thumbs up, and leaving a constructive comment down below, as we aim to be the most informative lightning bolt based modern channel on YouTube. Doing a little bit of Arclight Phoenix still here and there. Archetype obviously took a hit, but we are primarily a burn channel. We will be doing more burn content also coming up later this week, but wanted to try to give this list since it looked pretty sweet, and I wanted to cast Royal Silence, so here we go. Back here for game number 1, match number 1 on the play. Sand looks pretty reasonable. cantrips, way to discard a Phoenix. So, definitely inclined to keep his hand. So, interesting hand here. I think I'm interested in both these cards. Next turn, Ascension, and then start set up for a Phoenix turn, potentially. Sure. Well, wants to play a slower game, that's fine. Next turn, we get to go Manamorphose into Serum Visions into Merchant in the Vale. Meanwhile, triggering Pyromancer's Ascension at least once. So, potentially some style of Izzet deck. Snapcaster Mage, triggering Ascension. Definitely bottoming these lands. Cast Haggle. Yeah, starting to feel like a Niv deck, potentially. Unfortunately, no way to specifically get Phoenix in the yard. I mean, I could play Merchant, but that just seems like a waste of time. Could try to opt into a spell. I could Manamorphose, snap Manamorphose, see what happens. That might be our best bet here. Okay. Two, three, four. Yes. Okay. I guess we should technically have thought scoured ourselves there, most likely. So could Izzet Charm here. I think I'm just going to go ahead and cast Thing in the Ice. Opponent's not really threatening us at all. Like I said, I missed the opportunity to Thought Scour ourselves there, but Sure. That's actually more annoying than... Especially if they specifically have... whatchamacallit here? Opponent. I could try to push the issue here, but... Okay. Trigger, trigger, trigger. See if you have another response. Wildly annoying. They have path, they have path. Sure. No, they're sitting on a spell queller. Guess they're just some type of Bant Snow control. Okay, sure. No reason to act, just moving along. And you're dead, right? Okay, still doesn't save you. Still doesn't save you. Still doesn't save you. So, some style of Bant Snow. Cards are we particularly interested in? Snow. Base Fang. So, guess they're an Oko style deck. Seem to be heavy on creatures. Potentially a Stoneforge Mystic based list. So probably interested in the Braids. Anger could be potential consideration. Cards are we not particularly interested in. If we're operating in the assumption they're a creature-based list, definitely want those. Problem is there's not a whole lot in the main deck we want to cut. Force of Negation, maybe? But obviously they had Path to Exile, so I'm not sure I'm interested in cutting that particularly. Let's cut a Brazen Borrowed and maybe a Magnetic Sinkhole. Does make us a little bit more vulnerable to Planeswalkers, particularly if they are running Oko. Yeah, hand seems fine. Obviously the hand's based around Thing in the Ice, so it's not completely great here, but still seems reasonable. Well, it's a little bit aggressive, but with a one basic mountain in our hand, I think we have to be a little more I think I'm interested in both of those. Voice of Resurgence, sure. Voice is, how do I put it? Voice is an interesting card. It's an annoying card. Spell Queller, huh? Alright, I can play the slow game too, friend. This should bait out a... Yep, that's unfortunately... That portion of things is going to resolve, unfortunately. Double Phoenix, hooray! Alright, got there in game 1 against a Grindy deck. That feels pretty good. Anyways, on to match number 2. Back here for match number 2 on the play again. This hand's a little risky. One land, opt, thing in the ice. I mean, I guess it's reasonable. It's still risky, though. Gives us the option to play bolt or opt, but most likely opt here. Yep, especially since it looks like we're up against some type of Dash Shadow variant. Okay, sure. Gotta cast opt here, or we risk jamming up our hand. Need the island anyway, so as much as I would like that Metamorphose, I guess they have to take either Merchant of the Vale or Thing in the Ice here. Maybe Force of Negation. Merchant of the Vale? Sure. Draw another Merchant of the Vale. Like that meme people like to post about bot sees a card and opponent immediately draws another card. Going to 10 here. Feels like a delve threat, probably angler, right? Seems like a pretty good draw here. Let's do this main phase. Play around Stubborn Denial or any of that nonsense. It's past turn. Doesn't feel like our opponent necessarily has an answer to this thing in the ice. Okay. if you're gonna kill thing, that's whatever. Can't just hold up Force of Negation all day long while our opponent has things like Stubborn Denial in their deck. It's possible I should have cast Arclight Phoenix there. Sure. That was a mistake. That was a mistake. Yes. Alright, I mean, here we go. You don't kill a thing in the ice now, you just risk dying. So you're just dead? Still doesn't change the fact this flips and you're dead. Okay. Sure. So, Aria of Flame, not the greatest against Death Shadow, but against the card specifically Death Shadow, pretty brutal. Beyond that, Saheeli could be reasonable outside of specifically the card Teamer Battle Rage. The question becomes how many 2 and 3 mana plays you really want floating around. This could just be an Ascension versus Aria matchup. Guess I should actually look at the Death Shadow lists right now. Not too much graveyard heat, but I don't know how much time we actually have to set up Ascension. Sinkhole's fine as a one of. It's possible I'm supposed to be bringing in Saheeli's, I'm not sure. Not not the best hand in the world. I think I'm supposed to mulligan just because we have the 4 lands against a whatchamacallit deck. Bolt's probably the least effective card in this hand, especially since our opponent does have a decent amount of discard in their list, so probably losing Merchant of the Vale here. It's going to main phase this, looking for a second land. On the second land. So the risk of waiting till my end step to do this is our opponent could have a Stubborn Denial or something, and given our severe lack of mana, Stubby D could be a problem. So sure? Question mark. See if they have a Stubborn Denial here. Yeah, sure. Seems kind of low value play, but whatever. So I think our play next turn is just Manamorphose, Sinkhole. Try Sinkhole with 1 mana up. Sure. If they have a Stubborn Denial, we're pretty much dead here, so... Bolt gives us a chance. Okay. Pass turn. Okay. There's a Gurmag and a Snapcaster Mage. Alright. It's past turn. I'll keep trying to double bolt them. You have a stub, born dead. If you don't, stub or a snap. The only thing that keeps you alive, friend. Counter squall, I guess. Drop the lock. Alright, fair enough. Do. It's possible I don't even want Force of Negation in my deck right now, but I still think it's a reasonable enough card in certain spots. Just like to play first. This hand is perfectly reasonable. Pass turn. No reason really to do anything here. I really do like the tech of Brazen Borrower. Like Merchant in the Vale and Royal Scions just makes sense to a certain degree. Why would you target me? Especially when you know... Yeah, whatever. Yep. Like I said, they could take Opt, but I really don't particularly care about Opt per se. So, do again? Like, I don't like dealing myself unnecessary, arbitrary damage, but at the same time, like, they could have Drown in the Lock, they could have Fatal Push, they could have a lot of things here. Sure. Could just be trying to power out a quick Angler. Target themselves. Okay. Why would you not crack your fetch? I guess they really want the card that's on top. Or not. Okay. Sure. Wouldn't think you'd run out an Angler this turn. Like I said, you wouldn't think, but hard to say for sure. Yeah, feels like an Angler. Would explain the Brazen Borrower line. Possible they have Snap or K command in their hand. Could be potentially incorrect to run this opt-out here right now. But I am interested in finding additional land drops, potentially. Keeping Thought Scour, passing turn. So now they have to have 2 answers to Thing in the Ice. I don't think they can kill us from here right now. May as well attack. No blocks. Could put us dead next turn if they have Stubborn Denial and Team or Battle Rage. Yep. Why would you use your blue source, though? Seems a little dangerous. Don't tell me you have Drown in the lock, too. That'd be annoying. Just terminate. Nope, dismember. Okay. So I could just hard cast that. I could chain some spells here. I mean, I don't think we're in good shape either way, so may as well fire off the Manamorphose, see what kind of information we get. Don't like my chances of hitting here. So I could block, but does that really matter in the face of a deck with a bunch of removal spells? Especially when doing this gives us more options of drawing out here. Albeit unlikely, but gives us more chances at least. They have the Battle Rage, they have the Battle Rage, nothing we can do about that. Not playing around it since we're dead to it anyway. Lots to think of from our opponent's side. Our side's, well, pretty simple. So what combination of cards? Bolt plus Royal Scions could win potentially, I suppose. Bolt plus Bolt. I mean, we're dead in 2 turns either way, so this next turn's gotta be pretty good for us. Just don't really like their constant tapping their whatever mana here. Okay, sure, you got another Gurmag Angler. don't really think that changes the equation on our outs. Sure. Alright, I mean... What's another out here? Our other outs bolt, basically? Is there anything else that it behooved me to try to hit here? Serum Visions really doesn't give us a lot. Yeah, we just don't have enough mana. And bolt them to 2. I guess we'll wait and see if they get sloppy with their life total for some reason, but I don't see why they would. Sure, let's just see how sloppy they get. Unlikely that they'll get sloppy, but, you know, gotta give them the chance at least. Just to show them they were one card away from dying. Alright. That's it for match number 2. It's close though, so this deck definitely does feel a lot better than some of the previous iterations that have occurred since the bannings, but on to match number 3. Alright, we're back for match number 3. Hand seems okay. It's not like stellar or fantastic or anything, but seems reasonable enough. Probably Serum Visions and see what we can find. Let's go ahead and keep the Morphos, because Morphos is always good. Another Polluted Delta hand, huh? Another Death Shadow matchup would kind of suck. Some ways I'm tempted to just counter this, but cost is a little too high. Probably just take the Manamorphose. Either Morphos or the Force of Negation. Looks like we get to play Death Shadow back-to-back games, which is kind of annoying. Yep, takes the Morphos. Fortunately, we have another one on top. The question is, am I supposed to fire it off here? Like, what am I looking to hit off of that specifically? Haggle would be the only card I could hit off of it that would be reasonable. Targets themselves, correctly so, knowing that I have the opt. Must have a fetch land in hand. Okay, going to 11. Am I supposed to consider countering that? Don't think so. possible I was supposed to counter that. I think we're in some trouble, obviously. Especially if they have a fatal push. Sure. Probably have to take the Morphos here. Yep. This definitely doesn't feel good. Of course, I draw them in like the worst possible order here. So, lots of little mistakes here. Could have Force of Negation to keep this Garmagler from coming down. Possibly should have just kept the land to hold up Force of Negation through their turn cycle. Bolting doesn't really accomplish a whole lot. And if we die, we die. If they have a bolt, we're dead. So is there any way we live through this turn? And just don't die on the backswing. We need one of these to be a cantrip, just like, or casting the Force of Negation at some point with this in play. You can just wait till combat step, I guess. If you have stub, we're dead either way, so, I mean... Should have done this the other way. lots of little mistakes there. Should have forced their Thought Scour when we know we had the chance to keep them from killing us a little bit faster. So, lots of little tweaks and mistakes there that could have been made. Surgical, not really interested. Dragon's Claw. Once again, Saheeli could be interesting, but once again, you're looking at like a turn 3 setup card. You know, that's not Aria of Flame that just automatically KOs a Death Shadow. It's more of just a, whatchamacallit. It's one of the things with the cantrip decks is lots of little mistakes that can be made, lots of little opportunities to punt, screw up, and lots of chances to make, you know, little plays here and there, but yeah. Stands fine. Like, we have no particular payoff yet, but this hand's pretty reasonable. It's not Thoughtseize proof or anything, but there's nothing in our hand that's particularly interesting. None of our discard outlets, none of our power plays, no thing in the ice or anything they can take. So their discard spells on turn 1 or 2 are kind of eh. So these games seem really, really close. You know, that's part of the nature of Death Shadow is they live on the edge a little bit. Part of it is both decks have a lot of decisions to be made. So back in the day, I don't think this was a great matchup for Phoenix. It was certainly a reasonable one. Okay. Sure. I mean, we could try to trigger for a Phoenix here, but I think it's just a bit of a gamble, obviously. Wow. Looks like our opponent's going for a fast Gurmag Angler. Yep. So take their clock off the board. Play an opt. Yep. Like, I don't know. seems like it has a very low chance of succeeding, but depends on what our opponent decides to do here. Sure, just let that resolve. Guess they could have Drown in the Lock here, which would be mildly annoying. Yep. Could just brick and die here. Pretty much bricked and died here. Do I have another turn? I don't know. I guess I have enough in hand to ensure that I don't die this turn, but alright, I mean, that's certainly a card that could get us there. If you have a kill spell, I'm dead. If you have so many other things, I'm dead. But this at least gives us the chance. You have the kill spell? Of course you do. It's a dismember, right? Yep. That's unfortunate, but at least we sort of kind of had a chance there. Opt into Aria Flame, probably wouldn't have gotten there. Oh well. Shows how close it can be in certain spots, and other spots the matchup can just be kind of Anyways, on to match number 4. Yeah, we're here for match number 4 on the draw. Seems pretty reasonable. Couple cantrips, Force of Negation, Metamorphose. So potentially Infect. Nope. Amulet. I should have forced that, shouldn't I have? Hole. Alright, so they are the castle of Gilbride or whatever the heck that version is. It's possible I should be forcing this. Girl turf, sure. So forcing it wouldn't have made a difference. Last turn. Do I force the second amulet, or do I just hope they only have a pact? It's a rough one. So the force could have gone after the amulet, the force could go over the second amulet, could have gone after either of the ancient stirrings. It just feels like I'm supposed to go after Pact of Negation, or Pact of Summoner's Pact. Double Bolt could potentially deal with a Primeval Titan itself. So, yeah, I think we let the amulet resolve. Because they can't Titan us this turn, most likely. They would need, what, Azusa into Titan? This is another matchup where Blood Moon would have been significantly better than what was already going up, than Alpine Moon. That said, we could still potentially bring in Alpine Moon. Yep. Yeah, I guess this actually... No, this wouldn't get them to Titan mana. Let Once Upon a Time resolve. That's probably a mistake. I should have probably forced this. Nope, just another bounce land. Okay. Their force is either potentially extremely terrible or actually extremely good. Like I said, it all... Sadly, this game all comes down to, was I supposed to force one of those spells, or is their way of getting a Titan actually just packed? If it's packed, we're in decent shape. If it's actual Titan, we're probably dead. Another pact. Does hitting them for 7 this turn change the math? I suppose it theoretically would, but this way I also prevent myself from being hit by a Titan. Okay. Do you return to your hand here? Okay. Triggers, trigger. Bounce that, do that. Don't need another land. So do that to 7, and then a response. We could flip that. Could potentially hit a Phoenix and end the game this turn. Still think we're better off doing this thing and then trying to kill them next turn. Because we're literally 1 damage short. As known information. Granted, we would have seen a lot of cards, but with known information, they're... Yeah, I don't... Sure? Yeah? So... Could go for style points, we could just flip and kill them, and I think I'm just going to decide to flip and kill them. Bolts. Flip the pig and kill you. Alright. So, lots of little decisions there. So, been an interesting league so far. I think we're interested in the Abrades, possibly interested in the Alpine Moons. Don't think any of the rest of these cards do enough. Braids come in less to answer Amulet, more to answer the creatures. Sinkhole doesn't do a ton. I guess it's another spell we could pair with other things. Brazen Borrower seems fine. Scions seem not great, but I think at the same time they serve a purpose. So Alpine Moon could shut down the haste lands, but I don't think they're beating us with haste most of the time anyway. So I don't think these are worth it. Like I said, they could potentially slow them down by a turn and whatnot, but I think we probably trim a Sinkhole and maybe a Royal Scions. Maybe it's supposed to be Ascension, I don't know. Actually, it was probably supposed to be Ascension because they probably just bring in Bojuka Bog as a like pseudo whatever anyway. Pseudo graveyard hate that doesn't cost them much. I think we have to mulligan the sand. We don't have any cantrips and only the one island. The sand's fine. It's not like fantastic. It's going to do a lot of churning. Put the steam vents on the bottom of the deck. Get to cast a free Once Upon a Time, which is mildly annoying. Gemstone Mine, sure. Hopefully this isn't Scout. Yeah, it looks like a Scout. Nope, just Stirrings. Just Stirrings. There's the Amulet. Merchant of the Vale and Metamorphose. I think sign me up for both of those cards. Obviously, one Arclight Phoenix isn't a ton of pressure, but it's at least pressure. Yep. Another Once Upon a Time? Yep. Like I said, Blood Moon would be great to have in the sideboard for this matchup, but I understand why people would prefer Alpine Moon, particularly. So do this. Metamorphose, red, blue. Thought Scour ourselves. Maybe we'll hit a second Phoenix. We do not, unfortunately. Do at least have pressure-ish now. Bolt would have been nice to have to answer the Sakura's Tribe Scout. But our opponent could easily have Azusa here, and that will particularly matter. Was nice to get a turn 2 Phoenix down. At least nice to prove that that can happen again. Sure. That's now an interesting question. Like, what do I abrade here? Because, like, Amulet breaks the symmetry of cards, but Scout, I don't know. I guess I just killed the Scout. Kill that. Clock is so slow. Feels like they could potentially only have one more land in hand. That's a bounce land, maybe. So actually killing the Scout might have slowed their curve down. So next turn we're probably getting Titaned. Guess at this point we're basically dead to... Hope to get lucky. Am I dead? Nope, just 5 mana this turn. Actually, yeah, 5 mana. How could you... Yeah. So unfortunately I boarded out... What did I board out exactly? Boarded out a Scions and a Sinkhole. So there are several cards here that would potentially be lethal. Another Phoenix would be lethal. Potentially, anyway. Bolt you. Holy crap, we actually beat an Amulet without any dedicated anti-Amulet cards. On to match number 5. So just want to preface this before we get into the 5th and final match here on the draw. I do think this version has felt a lot better than some of the other versions, regardless of if this is Burn, if this is Jund, or what we're up against. So I will preface what I am saying by I think this version feels a lot better than whatever other versions have been being played thus far. Don't know what's going on over there. Don't want that. Probably want Merchant of the Vale past turn. Don't know what we're up against yet. Could be Burn, could be some other, just like Jund or something here. So, definitely not Burn. Could be a Mardu Just Shadow variant. Which would not surprise me if we're getting hit by a, okay, just, never mind. Stoneforge Mystic. Annoying but beatable. Sword of Fire and Ice. Give me a bolt or something. No, I already know what's on top of my deck. What am I saying? Sword of Fire and Ice in the main deck. We just want to get this game over with as soon as possible. Is there anything in this hand we particularly care about? Still think I'm supposed to use this here. Probably gonna have to run out your sword now. Doesn't seem like you had a path in your hand. Sure. I think all we're going to do here is attack. Shock this in. Hold up Bolt. Let them play a creature. They go to equip it, kill it. And then they're just dead to a fast thing in the ice here. Sure. Fails to find. Okay. And you're dead. Alright, so Mardu Stoneforge Mystic. Interesting. Stoneforge Mystic. Sorius, Blue White Control, Blue White Spirits. So, operating under assumptions, we know they could probably have a Braid's fine. Beyond that, I don't know what we want. Could potentially want Saheeli, could potentially want Anger of the Gods. Cards that I'm not particularly interested in. Sinkhole, we're not sure. Like, they could be a Death Shadow deck. I don't think so, running a Stoneforge package. So I think maybe trimming a Sinkhole and a copy of Arclight, maybe? Could be trimming an Ascension matchup. I don't really know what is the other correct call. Just roll a 61, I guess. Sounds okay, it's not great. We're definitely vulnerable to discard, but, you know. Yep. Could take the bold if they just have Stoneforge Mystic here. Force of Negation. Interesting. Let's go ahead and shock that in. I probably should have just played one of the fetch lands, but if they're going to play a Stoneforge, I'm just going to kill it. Sure. Take the Ascension. Makes sense. Way too many lands. Should at least make our opponent respect the possibility of Blood Moon here. This is just obviously a stone cold bluff. Our opponent doesn't know if that card is or isn't in our deck, so pitch that, go ahead. Have a K command here. Nope, just stone cold nothing. Playing around Blood Moon to the best of their ability, which isn't even in our deck. So what could they have here? Nahiri? Guess Nahiri would make some amount of sense. Monastery Mentor, sure. Hopefully you don't have a discard spell to go with it. Bolt our face. Sure. Just do that, because I really don't want to discard either card in my hand. What you got there, friend? Sure. Sword of Fire and Ice. Okay. It's interesting that seems to be the only... See, I would flat out attack here. I would force the... If you have the bolt, cool. Do you have Terminate? Apparently not. Nope. I mean, if your turn is playing Stoneforge Mystic and playing Sword of Fire and Ice, doesn't seem good. Sure. So one of the last cards in your hands is Stoneforge Mystic. So good chance you're dead here. Actually, you're just flat out dead. Top. Do that. And get the 3-2. So yeah. Be back in 1 second with the wrap up. So I don't know if this deck is the answer to the Arclight Phoenix ills that have occurred since the banning of Faithless Looting. Obviously, the deck feels well, compared to the post-ban list, this list feels amazing. Merchant in the Vale, definitely an upgrade over multiple copies of Izzet Charm, etc. Brazen Borrower, very powerful card in a lot of steps. Royal Scions, when it showed up, was ridiculously powerful in that one matchup against Mardu at the end there. This list feels smooth. This list feels good. I think this is a good jumping off point for rebuilding Arclight Phoenix into a contender in the format. I think this is the first time I have felt like we are close to the old Phoenix power level and consistency. Brazen Borrower and Merchant of Vale both performed pretty well. Royal Scions in that one spot performed very well. Beyond that, while there's not a whole lot of new cards in the deck, deck felt really smooth and really powerful again, and I think that is a huge first step towards helping this archetype out. And it's been a while since we've had a solid finish with Phoenix here. There's that version with Baral floating around that seems pretty interesting. There's a lot of other decks versions floating around, but this version felt very powerful, and certainly something I would consider picking up and working on again. So, good job to Jazonkidd on the Arclight Phoenix Discord. Shout out to you, props for your deck, man. Keep up the good work, and hopefully this will give hope to some of the other Arclight Phoenix pilots out there. Anyways, this has been Sean for MTG Nexus. Hope everybody has a great day.